Cool. Can everybody see? Any questions? You are welcome to ask questions as we go, and there's also going to be Q&A time at the end. So I'm going to open up my chat bar and keep that open so I can see you guys. But if I miss it, I'll come back and check at the end as well. Okay, so this is my little presentation on the top SIBO mistakes that I see. Not everybody, but almost everybody, especially for those that tend to relapse, that are doing all the right things and just not getting better, and not for want of trying. I see people with the best intentions and it breaks my heart that they're just not getting better. Okay, maybe let's start with some, can you put in the comments, how many of you think you might have SIBO, have had SIBO, not even sure what SIBO is, just so I can see where you're at. Nicole raised her hand. Autumn have it. I had it too. Hydrogen, SIBO, and methane. Trifecta double. I had it a few times. Feel like I have it again. Sorry, Brianna, that sucks. I was diagnosed with SIBO, methane, and hydrogen. I've had it and things still do. Have it, methane, I have SIBO, and candidose. Oh no. Had it, hydrogen. So I had the hydrogen, currently have SIBO, June in last year, and haven't been able to get it fully gone. It's a tricky little thing. I sometimes joke that I call it SIBO. It's funny, not funny. Currently have SIBO, June, just in the last year, and haven't been able to get it fully gone. Diagnosed with both, but primarily methane, parasite cleansing. Did you know, so I live in Bali, which is in Indonesia, and apparently 90% of people living in Indonesia have parasites. Oh, nasty. So I do some sort of parasite cleanse once a year. Currently have SIBO, diagnosed with both primary methane, parasites, yeah. Okay, cool. Diagnosed with both in March. Well, I'm so glad that you're all here, and let's get you better. So, what do we got? So I'd like to say a little welcome, just a little bit of housekeeping. So as we go through, it's going to be about an hour, but I've got time after, so, and the recording will be sent out. So if there was a question that you wanted to ask, just submit it here, or you can even email it out. Sure, I probably won't get that. Put it in the questions and I'll make sure that I answer all the questions before I sign off, and then you can watch the recording later. So don't worry if you need to go somewhere, that's totally fine. I would suggest, if you can, if you don't have any emergency calls coming through, just turning your phone onto flight mode so that you can stay nice and present. Have some water, and then I would get a pen and paper if you haven't already, and as we go through, take notes of what applies to you, because I'm going to go through different things, and not everybody has the same kind of SIBO, not everybody has the same symptoms. So try and take in what I say that is applicable to you. Because I think unless you've got one of those amazing memories, it would be almost impossible to retain everything. So writing down also helps us learn, versus when we're just watching, we're consuming. There we go. Cool, but any and all questions are welcomed. I'll get some as we go through, if I see them, and then I'll do the Q&A at the end as well. Cool, but yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. I am super passionate about my work, and it means a lot that you guys are here. Okay. Oh, you're welcome, Brianna. Oops, try again. Diagnosed with methane. 310. I think at least you're amazing. You can send it to me privately, but I think if you wanted to share that with everyone, you can just click to everyone on the chat and it shares it to everyone. Okay, so what we're going to learn in the next hour, we're going to go through the top mistakes that I see people making. I've got 17. Some of them are a little bit overlappy, but I felt like they deserve their own little point. And then intertwined with that, I'll be adding in what to do instead. And then I'll go through a bit about my approach and how I work and what I do with my clients and why it's so amazing. And then, as you know, probably know, I've got SIBO Freedom coming up, so I'll go a little bit through that as well. And then we've got the Q&A at the end. Okay, so why I do what I do. Not sure how long each of you have been following me for or how much you know about me, but I think it's always nice to connect as humans, I guess. So I tend to share my story a lot, because when I was going through SIBO 4 years ago, so I had SIBO, I had the hydrogen SIBO. When I was going through SIBO 4.5 years ago, actually, now, there wasn't much awareness of it. And I felt like the only person in the whole wide world that had this broken body. And I felt so isolated. I felt so alone. I felt so broken and ashamed and embarrassed. And it was awful. It was so awful. And I was just desperate to connect with other people, and I didn't feel that anybody could relate to what I was going through or understand what I was going through, because I felt like I was the only one going through it. So that's why I share my story so much, to show you that you're not alone. And this is another reason why I love my group coaching program so much, because you get to connect with other people that are going through similar things to what you're going through. So I often joke that I popped out the womb on the digestive back foot. And what I mean by that is that I was a very colicky baby. So mum said that I was always crying when she tried to breastfeed me. I had a lot of gas, I had a lot of bloating, my bowel motions were never really good. So I don't remember that part. But what I do remember, even from about the age of 10, I started to become aware that food wasn't easy for me. I was constantly trying to avoid eating, but then when I did eat, I was so hungry that I would overeat. My weight started to become quite unstable from 10 years old. And I would look at my friends that didn't seem to have any issues, and I just thought that they had better willpower than me, and that I was weak, that I was a bad person, that I was all these different things. And then I could never understand how I would get fat literally overnight. So I could be having a flat stomach, and because I would be very onto it with my food. I tried to be very conscious because it was such a fine balancing act. And then overnight I would get fat, or within 2 hours after eating a meal, I would get fat. But it wasn't the fat, it was the bloating. So I became interested in natural medicine as a way to heal my body without really realizing that's what I was doing. I was just always trying to find a way to feel better. And I just wanted to have some peace. I felt like I was constantly fighting with this body, and I didn't feel connected to my body. It felt like me fighting with this body that was not my own. I didn't know how to care for it. It was like, what do you want? I will do it. Just tell me what you want. Whereas now I feel like I'm really connected with my body, and I'm so grateful. So that's why I do what I do. And I get totally excited. And I have not lost touch with how cool the work is that I do when I see others transforming as well. It is super cool. That's why I do what I do. This is like, who am I? That's Buddha. Buddha's amazing. So I am Kirsten. I am originally from South Africa, and then we all immigrated to the UK when I was 16. I left Europe after a few years, did some travel, ended up in Australia, stayed there for 8 years, and now I've been living in Bali for the last 5. And Bali's home. I'm so grateful. I love it here so much. Cool. So that's me. Okay, before we get into it, just so that we are all on the same page with SIBO, so a little bit of an overview. So SIBO, or SIBO, stands for Small Intestinal Bacterial Overgrowth. And I think one of the most important things to get your head around is that it's not necessarily bad bacteria. It's just got in the wrong spot. So all the stuff in the middle, that's our small intestine. And then this here is our large intestine. And did you know, if you were to flatten out your small intestine with all the folds and the villi and the microvilli, it would almost be the size of a tennis court. That's massive. So they call it the small intestine, but it's actually very large. So we can have some bacteria in the small intestine, but it should be relatively sterile. So in the small intestine, that's where we digest and absorb almost all our nutrients. And then we should have bacteria in our large intestine, which is also called the colon. And then the bacteria in our large intestine is called our gut microbiome. In our body, we've actually got 7 different microbiomes, but this is the main one that people talk about when there's a microbiome. We also have them in our eyes, in our ears, in our nose, vaginal canal, on our skin. There's heaps of them. So the body is this amazing if you want to call it a machine, and it's in its optimal state. It's got so many protective mechanisms in place that keep things working as it should. And if you think about it, when we're eating, we're putting the outside world on the inside of our body. So we should have a whole bunch of defense mechanisms in place that can keep the things that we don't want into the bloodstream staying in the digestive system and expel the waste out the other end. So somewhere along the line, something has gone wrong to allow the SIBO bacteria to get into your small intestine and then overgrow. So small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. If you want to be quite technical, Narala Jacoby, she's amazing. She's another SIBO person. She's even started calling methane SIBO, she started calling it IMO, intestinal methanogen overgrowth. Yeah, that's what she's calling it. But it's SIBO, because the methanes aren't actually bacteria, they are archaea. So they are the methanogens. So to be very technical, you could call it that as well. But when we talk about SIBO, we talk about the methane SIBO, hydrogen SIBO, and then there's also the hydrogen sulfide SIBO. So yeah, that's them over there. Any questions on that so far? SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Bacteria in the wrong spot, not necessarily bad bacteria. Okay, what do we got here? That's my one. And the most common form that I see is the hydrogen one. The methane one tends to be harder to treat. And if you've seen the scientific sort of classification of it, you'll see methane is CH4. So it takes 1 carbon molecule and 4 hydrogen molecules to make the methane, and then hydrogen is H2. The reason that's nice to know is because if you've done your SIBO test and you come back with methane and hydrogen, sometimes you can get a bit of a false reading on the hydrogen. I'll come more to testing later, because the methanogens gobble up the hydrogen gas. Cool. Oh yes, and then at the, oh look at that fit. At the end, I'll be sharing a little code with you for SIBO Freedom. So stay in there, and it's only for you guys. I'm not telling it on my social media or anything. Okay, let's go. Top mistakes I see people making. So not testing. This is such a big one, and it's so important to test. I am such an advocate for testing. I'm a great example. So usually with methane SIBO, you might be more prone to constipation. And then with hydrogen SIBO, you'll be more prone to diarrhea. So the top symptoms of SIBO, but these don't apply to everyone. So most people have the bloating within 2 to 3 hours after eating. If it's longer than 3 hours, then I think more of the large intestine. Sorry, longer than 2 hours, it's the large intestine. So within the first 20 minutes, I think of stomach, 20 minutes to 2 hours, I think small intestine, 2 hours, and after I think of the large intestine. So if you are just going based on your symptoms, there could be the food intolerances, the diarrhea, constipation, alternating between the two, bloating, gas, belching. That's in the digestive system. And then you can also get skin conditions, anxiety, depression, headaches, brain fog, hormonal disruptions. So much can come from SIBO and digestive issues. So if you just go based on your symptoms, then you could do the wrong treatment protocol. So for methane SIBO, it's very specific. We use the herb garlic, but the product Alimax, because it's had the fructans taken out. And then for the hydrogen SIBO, with the herbal antimicrobials, we use berberine. So back when I had it, if I'd just gone based on my symptoms, because I struggled with constipation my whole life, I'd probably have a bowel movement twice a week, like little rabbit pellets. And that would usually go hand in hand with methane SIBO. So if I'd just treated without testing, I would have treated the wrong thing, and I wouldn't have gone anywhere, and probably set myself even further back and wasted time and wasted money. So highly, 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 highly recommend testing, even if you mildly think you might have it. It just gives you so many answers, and it takes away so many unknowns. And if someone's been told that they just have IBS, or they've just got bloating, or they've just got food intolerances, don't settle. If someone tells you just, there's got to be more answers. And up to 84%, studies have shown this, up to 84% of IBS cases or irritable bowel syndrome have SIBO as the underlying cause. So IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, when you hear the word syndrome, it's referring to a collection of symptoms, but it doesn't tell you why you got them. So irritable bowel syndrome, polycystic ovarian syndrome, it's just classifying them, but not telling you your reason why. So SIBO, being the underlying cause of up to 84% of IBS cases, it's an actual thing. So when I finally found out that I had SIBO, on one hand, I was like, oh my God, that is so awful. But on the other hand, it was like, yes, okay, I can work with this. Now I know that there's actually something wrong with my body. It's not all in my head. I'm not making this stuff up. So testing. I post on my Instagram about once a month where to order a test from, because it's a really good post. But from in the States, I tend to use the company Direct Labs. And then you can go to directlabs.com/Kirsten, not Kristen, Kirsten. And then I've got a bunch of recommended tests there, because otherwise you need to sort through like 300 different tests. And there's a 3-hour SIBO test in there. I like to use the lactulose solution. So you'll see lactulose and you'll see glucose. Glucose is we call it a substrate, and it gets absorbed higher up in the small intestine. So if you have SIBO at the distal end, the far end of your small intestine, it could miss it. So for that reason, I personally prefer the lactulose, different to lactose, lactulose, because then it makes it all the way through the small intestine, and it does get digested in the large intestine. So then after that 120-minute mark, we are hoping to see some fermentation. So the lactulose will get all the way through, and it can tell us that there is some good bacteria in your large intestine. In the States, in Canada, I use SIBO Canada. In the UK, there's a bunch of new ones come through actually. So if you need any help with the UK, if you just email Sam at admin@kirstenswales.com, she'll be able to help you out there. And then also SIBO Test in Australia. They are amazing in Australia, but also worldwide. So they ship everywhere in the world. So anybody, no matter where you are, can order a test. You don't need to rely on your doctor. You don't need to rely on a referral. You can order it from there. In the States, it's about $200. SIBO test is about 250 Aussie, which is about 150 US. Cool. Any questions on testing while I'm here? Oh, sorry. Do I recommend a GI map test as well? It depends on the person. So I love testing. I love seeing the numbers, but it does add up cost-wise. So I order testing when it will change my treatment protocol that I'm going to do for the client. So if someone has SIBO, that kind of trumps most other things, because you have to get rid of the SIBO and it's quite intensive. So when you do a SIBO treatment, when I'm doing a SIBO treatment with my clients, I'm looking after the SIBO. Most of the time there's Candida as well. And sometimes I might suspect parasites. So you can do all of that at the same time. So then I probably wouldn't need a GI map straight up, because I'm going to be doing it anyway with SIBO. So if I wanted to do a GI map, I would kind of reserve it for if I'm not getting the results that I expected through here. I was like, okay, so maybe something got missed in there. But it's lovely. It's a wonderful test, but it's about $500 at last check. Whereas if you did the GI map first and not the SIBO test, the GI map might show some other bacteria that you need to get rid of, but it's not going to tell you if you have SIBO or not. And SIBO has to be dealt with. If the large intestine is out of balance, you can do a lot with food and managing it through that way. But SIBO, once it's there, you have to get it out. If it's my preferred way, is the herbal antimicrobials. Also, you can do it with antibiotics. You can do it with the elemental diet. Does that make sense? So I love it. I usually don't do it straight up, because I can get so much information from the SIBO test and what the person tells me. So I do a very extensive intake form, and that, because I've been doing it for so long, I can see, okay, well, if you've got an itchy bum and you're clenching your jaw, you've probably got some parasites. Does the GI show what is happening in the small intestine, large, or both? You mean the GI map in the large intestine? And then the SIBO breath test will show you what's happening in the small intestine, but it also shows me a little bit what's going on in the large intestine. Because if you don't have any fermentation after the 120-minute mark, it can show that your large intestine is a bit sad. because we should be seeing some fermentation there. What did I recommend for testing in the US? Direct Labs, DIRECTLABS / my name, Kirsten, KIRSTEN, and you'll see the 3-hour lactulose breath test. If you have slow motility or gastroparesis, can that lead to a false negative? Yes and no. So that's why it's always important to connect the person with the test result. So if someone DMs me their SIBO test result and say, hey, do I have SIBO? I'll never say yes or no, because I don't know how often they're having a bowel motion. I don't know what's going on with the transit time. And that can affect the interpretation of the test, which is actually the next slide. So taking that, if I know that you have slow motility, then I can use that information when I'm looking at your test result. If a GI map showing Candida and H. pylori, would you treat that SIBO? Would you treat that before SIBO or do both at the same time? SIBO trumps everything, and I would do the Candida and parasites at the same time, because you're getting in there anyway. You might as well just top it up and do it all at once. Good questions, guys. Okay, not interpreting test results quickly. So this leads on to what Courtney was kind of asking. So I always look at the methane first, back to what I said about the methane sort of trumping the hydrogen, because it takes 4 hydrogen molecules to make methane and just the 2 for the hydrogen. So I look at methane first. The first thing I look at is that we want the baseline, so your starting number, we want your baseline to be under 5. If it's over 5, either the test prep wasn't done correctly, or there was a false, that noise put me off, or there's fermentation happening all the time. So maybe from the large intestine. So a baseline of 5 and above can indicate large intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is not nice either. It's just very uncomfortable. So then for the methane, this is based on, what I'm talking about now is based on the North American consensus. So to be positive for methane SIBO, you're looking for a rise of 12 parts per million. So if you've got a test result, I don't know if you guys have got test result, you won't look at them now. The ppm stands for parts per million. So we're just looking for a rise of 12 parts per million over the lowest preceding value within the first 120 minutes. So what that could mean is, so say your starting number was 4, then it went to a 5, and then it went to a 2, then it went to something else. The 2 would be the lowest number. So the lowest number that comes before the high number. And then, so then say your lowest number was 2 plus 12. So anything 14 and above would be considered positive within the first 2 hours, because after that it's in the large intestine. Does that make sense? Methane was 81. That's really high. Oh, shame, Lisa, that would suck. My methane number was 81, just retested. Oh, if you have a high baseline and it does not rise even higher until, could you have lipo, not SIBO? Very likely, yeah. So if it starts high and then just kind of stays there, I tend to think more large intestinal bacterial overgrowth. But again, I match it with the person. So I'm asking lots of questions to see what's going on, because there's so much involved with the body. The body is beautiful. So Melanie, had over 80 at all times. So then I'll be definitely making sure that the test prep was done correctly. So if you have normal motility, like a bowel motion every day or more, so if you have fast motility, then you do 1 day of the prep diet. If your bowel motions are on the slower side and or constipated, you do 2 days. Test prep, I'm very specific on this one. So the purpose of the test prep is to reduce fermentation in the intestine, so that when you drink the solution, if the bacteria are in there, then they eat it and ferment it, release the gas, and it's the gas that you're testing. So the test prep should be like no fermentable fibers. So no fruit or veg. You're having just chicken, baked or broiled, because you don't have too much fat either. White fish, eggs, a little bit of olive oil. You can have a little bit of coconut oil. You can have 1 week black coffee and jasmine rice if you've been having grains. Otherwise, that's it. So if you're a vegetarian, like the rice is your only option, or you could even just do a water fast. So that will help to reduce fermentation in the intestines. So then when you drink the lactulose solution, you wake up the bacteria again. So if the baseline was over 80, I would be very much making sure that the test prep was done correctly. And if it was done correctly, then there's probably a very big imbalance in the large intestine. Sorry about that, love. So 80. No, it's bad. Baseline is 35. This is some high baselines, guys. Whoa. Bit of a question, how would I treat LIBO compared to SIBO? I might say that one for later. It's more, but it's not as intense. So I'll come back to that one later. Okay. This one I'm just going to stick to SIBO so I can make sure I get all the, because I love talking. I could talk for hours, but I don't want to keep you guys for hours. Okay, not retesting. Oops. That's super, oh, sorry, back to, beg your pardon. For hydrogen, you're looking for a rise of 20. So for methane, it's a rise of 12. Hydrogen, it's a rise of 20. And then also, Dr. Mark Pimentel was working on a test for hydrogen sulfide SIBO. With COVID, that all got delayed, so that's not out yet. So sometimes if the practitioner does it correctly, I do see an overdiagnosing of it though. So hydrogen sulfide SIBO is H2, oh, how many hydrogens? I feel like it's S2H8. So it takes more hydrogen molecules. So then that trumps methane and the hydrogen. So if you see a flat line all the way through, so the whole 3 hours, like a flat line, not moving more than 1 or 2 points, and it's low, so between 0 and 3, that can indicate hydrogen sulfide SIBO. But I see kind of people and practitioners, it's not just people as practitioners as well. I do see a lot of overdiagnosing of SIBO, which makes me really sad because it is quite intensive, like with the antimicrobials, antibiotics, or the elemental. Whereas, kind of back to Lisa's question, if it is not SIBO, but you're having symptoms similar to SIBO, chances are that you've actually got an undergrowth. So SIBO is the overgrowth. LIBO usually is an undergrowth of your good bacteria. So then a lot more, you often don't even need antimicrobials. So then it's focusing on your prebiotics, your probiotics, diversity in food, and expanding all back out. Not retesting. I am a massive fan for retesting as well. I see a lot of practitioners saying, oh, but you feel better, so it's all gone. Or the other way, you still got symptoms, so you think you still have it, so you launch into more antimicrobials. Again, now that I'm at the other side, I can be grateful that I went through SIBO because it helps me relate to you guys so much, and I have been through it myself. So pretty much every symptom that my clients have, I've had at some point as well. So I know how it feels. So when I did my SIBO treatment, I did the round of antimicrobials, but afterwards I still felt bad. Like I still got bloated. So I was like, oh, I've still got SIBO. And then I bought a whole bunch more antimicrobials and I was going to get ready to do another round. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to retest, see how much progress that I made. And it actually cleared my SIBO. So the SIBO was gone. I just needed to repair all the other bits after. So if I just launched into the antimicrobials, I would have set myself even further back and wasted time and money. So a big fan of retesting as well. I like to retest within the week after finishing SIBO treatment to make sure that it was effective. So not considering further testing. So if, back to what I was saying about with that, when I ordered the GI map. So if someone has done the treatment plan and they're not responding as expected, then I might look into other things. So like, is there mold? Mold is it's a co-infection, and mold is really, it's quite tricky to treat. And if you don't deal with the mold, it's really hard to get rid of your SIBO. And then some parasites can be a bit trickier than others. So it's good to consider these testing. There's actually a really cool little test you can do online, VCS, V for Victor, C for Charlie, S for Sarah, the VCS test. And it just takes, it's $10 to get the result. And it just tests your visual contrast sensitivity. So that's what that stands for. And it's all these little gray lines and they get harder and harder to see. And how well or not you can see them can give you an indicator if you have any biotoxins. It won't tell you which biotoxins you have, but at least then that's a starting point. So mold is considered a biotoxin. So that's I'll put it in the chat. It's the vcs.com, I think. VCS test. Isn't it interesting? One of the biggest things I see, I don't know if anyone clenches their jaw at nighttime. If your dentist always says that you clench your jaw, that can indicate parasites too. Or it can be low magnesium. So low magnesium leads to cramp, so your jaw could be cramping at nighttime. Do I still treat the SIBO first if you have mold toxicity? I do them both at the same time. So you don't need to do one, then the other. You can do both at the same time. You just need to address both. You can't just ignore one. So jumping into antimicrobials, I see people reading that oregano is good for killing bacteria. So they'll go to the health food store, get some oregano and just take it. It's like they're natural, but they're not all safe. So the herbal antimicrobials are the safest, but your good bacteria will take a little bit of a hit too. So that's why I'm so big on working on both at the same time. So you can work on your good bacteria through food. So I'm doing that from day one. I'm helping people to expand their food back out. So by the time they've finished, you know, I love my analogies. I'm just looking at my garden. So say with your garden, if you had weeds in your garden and some plants and it was just not doing very well, it's a bit of a sad garden. The quickest way to get rid of the weeds would be to set the whole thing on fire. So yes, you'll get rid of your weeds, but you're also going to get rid of your good plants. I kind of think of antibiotics like that. So yep, you're just nuking everything. But then you've got to start from scratch. So your soil is going to be scorched. It's going to be not very healthy soil. Whereas herbal antimicrobials, if you just spent a little bit extra time, not even that much longer, because you've got to wait for the fire to get put out and everything, just a little bit longer and selectively pull out the weeds and leave the good plants alone at the same time as making sure your soil is well nourished and watered. By the time you've finished, so say maybe antibiotics 2 to 3 weeks, antimicrobials 4 to 6 weeks, by the time you finish with your herbal antimicrobials and doing what I do through the microbiome, you're going to be in a much better shape coming out the other end. Like you get ready to go, like your garden is thriving again. Very important. So don't just go willy-nilly into antimicrobials unless you need them. They're not lollies. They can hurt you. Other ways to test for mold. Yes, you can do actual tests to see what kind of mold you might have. It's my best test. I have to double check which ones you can get through which companies, but you can test for mold. It's like specific ones that you can do, and there's different kinds of molds, and they'll tell you which one you might have. If you suspect any of these in a SIBO Freedom client, do you recommend these tests and incorporate results, or is that more of the one-on-one work? I feel like you're asking if I suspect any mold or candida or anything like that. I absolutely bring it in. So I talk about SIBO all the time, and this is because it's something that you guys relate to. And I'll come more to this later on, so how I work. But I'm looking at the whole person. So SIBO is the symptom that we see. So it's something that you can relate to, like, okay, something is up, like I should not be looking pregnant after eating an apple. So, but by the time that that's happened, things have been going wrong for some time. Like if, you know, like you might be in a mild, maybe you start your day in a really good mood, and then all these little things happen throughout the day to irritate you and piss you off. And then at the end of the day, someone just looks at you wrong and you erupt. So things have been like happening below the surface for some time. If you'd been having a regular day and the person looked at you the same way, you probably wouldn't have had the same result. So by the time that we get SIBO, our digestive system has been struggling for some time. So almost always there is something else up, and you have to address that. Amazing question. It is coming up. Am I able to order testing in the US? A lot I can. As far as I know, there's nothing that can't. Yeah, I've got accounts set up all around the world. I feel like I'm quite clever, actually. So I work with clients all over the world, mostly in the US, and then because I've been doing it for some time, I've got an amazing network. So I've got suppliers of natural medicines all over the world, in the US and Canada and Europe, Australia. And I can order testing as well because I have my qualifications as a naturopath and herbalist. So yeah, big fan of testing. This is a massive one. This is a massive, massive one. I see it all the time and it makes me so sad. So if you get stuck in multiple rounds of killing, remembering me, like if I had just gone based on my symptoms and launched into more, I just would have been going round and round and round and round in circles. So when you are killing your SIBO, if it's through antibiotics or antimicrobials or the elemental, remember what I was saying about how your good bacteria will take a hit too. So our microbiome is so important for digestion, and it helps us with our immune system, and it helps us with our serotonin. Serotonin, amongst other things, is a motility agent. So the body just doesn't work if the microbiome isn't working. And so when you are killing, it's hard on the body. So you are probably lowering your vitality. So our vitality is our strength, it's our energy, it's everything. So every time you do a round of antimicrobials, you're going to take a little chip out of your vitality. It's a bit sad. Do I have a parrot? No, it's geckos. We have lots of geckos in Bali. They like to sit up there. If we auto test through you, will you interpret it? I can give you feedback on it if you're kind of in my tribe, but I will only make recommendations if you're a client. That's for anything, because as I was saying, it's not just the test result, it's the person as well. So if you want my recommendations and a protocol through me, then I need to take you on as a client, because I take that responsibility on. So I want to know what's going on with your whole body before making any sort of recommendations. But I'm happy to look at it, but I won't tell you what to do. There is on my highlight bubbles on my Instagram feed, I go through how to interpret test results. So you can watch that a couple times. It might take a couple times for it to sink in, but you can totally apply it yourself. Okay, so don't get stuck in multiple rounds of killing. Do the one round, retest, see where you're at. And if you do need to do another round, you need to give yourself at least 6 weeks in between. So just like if you were overweeding your garden, give it a break for a little bit, focus on nourishing the garden so it becomes healthier, and then you can overcome it more easily. If we have LIBO, will we benefit from the SIBO group or one-on-one? Well, at the moment, I'm not doing one-on-ones, more on that later. Probably about half the people that join have SIBO, the other half have LIBO. The method is the same, but the specifics are different. More on that later. I'm going to get through these mistakes and talk more about that one. Over-restricting food. I did it too. So like apples made me bloat, so I stopped eating apples. Garlic made me bloat, so I stopped eating garlic. Vegetables made me bloat, so I stopped eating vegetables. When I was in the thick of it, when I was in my worst bit, I was just eating chicken and eggs. Part of that was vanity, if I'm very honest, because I was working as a yoga instructor, and it's quite a thing to have the yoga body. So I was quite little then, I had the 6-pack. But if I ate vegetables, I didn't have a 6-pack because I was so bloated. So I didn't want to eat anything that made me bloated. And at the time, chicken and eggs was the only thing that didn't make me bloat. And it could keep me feeling full. But over time, because there's no micronutrients in there, there's like your macronutrients, which are your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. But all our vitamins and minerals, almost all our vitamins and minerals, come from our plant foods. So like our fruits and our vegetables, nuts and seeds. So I ended up very deficient. So it helped me for a little bit of time, like a couple months, and then it just crashed. So I get also really sad if people go on the keto diet. So the keto diet is so bad for our digestive health. And people might feel better for a couple months, usually about 3 or 4 months, and then it rebounds and it's worse than before. So that's a bummer. So over-restricting is a big thing. Just because something's causing a reaction, it's not necessarily the food, but how your body can cope with that food. So say I hurt my knee, one way to make it stop hurting is to not use the leg or chop the leg off. Or I could repair the knee and then I've got use of my leg again. So Restricting isn't the answer. Not following a tailored dietary approach. So I often use the biphasic diet as a starting point and then expand it as much as I can for the person as quickly as possible. But also, what if someone's got histamine intolerance? What if someone has celiac disease? What if someone has Hashimoto's? So you need to take all these different things into account while eating as wide a variety as possible, but making it tailored to you, not everybody else. And not expanding the diet back out. So this is another big one, another huge one that I see. And being so restricted because it helps your symptoms, but then as soon as you try to eat anything else, it makes you bloated. So there's the fear. I had such bad food fear. I wouldn't go out to eat at restaurants. I wouldn't eat at friends' houses. I wouldn't eat any food that people didn't cook for me. My food fear was intense. So I had to go slowly, like physically and emotionally, to expand my diet back out. And that makes us nice and strong again in our microbiome, in our digestive system, in our vitality, mentally as well. The two food fear was so crap. Oh, there's so many good questions. I do see them coming, and I'm going to come back to them. Under eating. So this is another thing that I did. At the moment, I probably eat the most I've ever eaten, and I feel great. I've actually got strength. I'm not tired all the time. I don't have brain fog all the time. I'm like pumped for life, yo. It's so good. It's taken me time to get here, and I totally get how hard it is because it took me a while. I feel like there's a difference between fixed and healed. There was one time, so I've been in Bali 5 years, and SIBO happened pretty soon after I got, probably before, but I got my diagnosis pretty soon after arriving in Bali. And it's an amazing life here. Like I could surf every day, I could go to yoga every day, the food is incredible, but I wasn't enjoying all those things because I was so sick. I was too embarrassed to go surfing in my bikini, so I didn't want to go to yoga because I couldn't bend over my bloated belly. So I had this amazing life, but I wasn't enjoying it. I just felt like I was a prisoner in my own body. And then I remember after I'd done a lot of healing, and some friends and I were going on a surf trip to one of the other islands, and we were sitting in the car, and we were going somewhere super remote, and the local food in Indonesia is pretty bad. It's all deep fried sugar stuff. Where I am in Bali, there's a lot of Westerners, and they do cater for us. So there's such healthy food here in the area that I am. But I was going to this really remote island and I had no idea what the food situation was going to be. And we were going for 10 days. And I wasn't scared. And it kind of dawned on me. I was like, whoa, I've come a long way. I'm not scared of the food. I'm not scared of getting bloated. I'm not scared of getting constipated. I'm going to be okay. Yeah, got your sleep in Bali. Oh, love. My doctor is recommending a veggie mash to incorporate all colors of rainbow. Oh, that's a wonderful way to start. Sorry, Lisa just said, my doctor is recommending a veggie mash to incorporate all colors of rainbow back in, a teaspoon a day to start. Amazing. Little bit. That's really good. Okay, so ignoring other parts of the digestive system. So what's going on with motility? What's going on with stomach acid? What's going on with the microbiome? What's going on with the ileocecal valve? All these things need to work together. What's going on with the tone of your muscles? All very, very important. Not addressing underlying causes. Who's got an idea of what I think is one of the top underlying causes of SIBO? Go on, give it a go. Feel your pain, get visually feel. So great. Stressing that. Brett, got it. Oh yes, look at you guys go. Megan, Kristen, yeah, stress. I reckon stress is the number one cause. So when we are, well done you guys, when we are stressed, we're in our sympathetic nervous system. And then this is our fight or flight, freeze or appease. So survival instinct is going to trump everything. If you imagine you're running away from someone that's chasing you with a gun, you don't need to think about digesting apples right now. That can wait until you're out of danger. You don't need to think about making babies right now. That can wait until you're out of danger. So your sympathetic nervous system will always be dominant if you are in a stressed state, which means your parasympathetic nervous system, or your rest and digest, also known as your breathe and feed, that gets shut down because survival instinct trumps everything. So if you are constantly in stress mode, your stomach acid doesn't get released as properly. You don't release as many digestive enzymes. Your stomach will be in knots, so you can't process the things properly. Amongst so many other stuff. So that's the biggest underlying cause, I reckon, for SIBO. And I work on this as well in my programs. It always needs to be addressed. And then there could be thyroid issues, underactive thyroid, overactive thyroid, Hashimoto's. There could be hormonal issues, endometriosis, polycystic, celiac disease. We've talked about mold, candida, something from there as well. Well done, guys. I'm impressed. Ignoring other seemingly unconnected parts of the body. So if you have skin rashes, that's your body telling you that something's up. If you have headaches, that's your body telling you that something is up. If your vision is blurry, that's your body telling you that something is up. The body is so good at giving us little signs that something's out of balance. We just need to know how to listen to them and interpret them. This is why I'm so big on educating, because when you start to tune into your body, you can see how it responds, and then you can become more in tune with it. Yeah, my intake form is massive. All of those, sorry, Kim. I've got a really, really extensive intake form, which is my starting point. Because then just from looking at that, I can see, you know, when you find out that someone is a psychologist, you're like, oh, I need to be careful what I say. I'm a bit like that. I can look at people and see, like, if they've got red cheeks, oh, they got a bit of rosacea. Or if they've got lines over there, it's like, oh, that connective tissue needs some love, because this is my jam. This is what I do. So I'm very good at seeing the whole picture and what's going on without people really being aware. Relying too much on supplements and not making new habits. I see a lot of people kind of handing over their power or their responsibility to supplements. If I buy this supplement, it's going to fix me. If I take 30 supplements, it's going to fix me. A lot of the time, we can heal so much through habits. I don't know who's been in my Facebook group that I've been doing the last week, 7 days of healthy digestion habits. Just from doing those alone, people are getting so much relief. So you need to be prepared to make some changes in your life, and you can get to a point where you don't need any supplements. So there's nothing that I take on a day-to-day basis apart from vitamin B12, because I'm pretty much plant-based and you can't get B12 in the plants. But there was a time where I had this whole cupboard full of supplements and herbs, and Susie in the group was taking this, so I better take that, and I was taking this, and oh my gosh, is that my liver? I better take some liver stuff. Whereas now that my body is back into balance, I don't need all these supplements. So I go for the minimum effective dose. So what do you have to have? Okay, let's do that. And then let's see what else we can do with food and lifestyle and all the other different things. So your body is amazing. We just need to figure out what it needs, and then it will respond. And the digestive system responds relatively quickly. So you could have had digestive issues for 25 years. If you get on the right track, you can get a whole bunch of benefit within 6 to 12 weeks. Whereas, say, something like, I don't know, Alzheimer's or endometriosis, that might take a little bit longer to heal. But the digestive system regenerates so fast because it's always got new stuff coming in. When you get on the right track, you can feel better really quickly. Symptoms can go down within a couple of days, but to repair it takes a little bit longer so they don't come back. Oh, your cupboard is full. I bet you're not the only one. Not working with a specialist and relying on people in the Facebook groups. So again, one thing, I didn't know, I started kind of thing. So when I got my SIBO diagnosis, I didn't know too much about it. I was already a naturopath then, but in school we'd kind of just gone, oh yeah, do the FODMAP diet, you'll be okay. I was like, oh, not really actually. Guilty. So I just researched everything, and I joined every single Facebook group to do with SIBO. I locked myself in my room, not even joking, for 2 weeks. I didn't see anyone. So I just... And I was listening, I got so depressed. All these people in the Facebook groups, they weren't getting better. And I was like, oh my God, my life is over. I'm never going to be able to date again. I'm never going to have a family. My life is ruined. I'm going to be broken forever. And it's not true. So eventually I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to book when I first got to Bali, I spent the last of my money on a yoga teacher training and became a yoga teacher. So when I had SIBO, I was actually in debt. But I borrowed some money and I booked an appointment with a naturopath that knew more about SIBO than we can listen to. Yes, you can, Kimberly. You can listen to my Insta posts. So I borrowed some money and I went to see a naturopath that knew more about SIBO than I did. And I really had a loose plan in place. I just wanted to double check that I was doing the right thing, because I didn't want to go down a road and find it was the wrong road and have to do it all over again, because that would just be more money, time, and everything. And then because people have different SIBO and people have different underlying causes and people have different symptoms. So even if Susie fixed her hydrogen SIBO with bourbon doesn't necessarily mean that you will. And if you use the wrong antimicrobials, if you use the wrong treatment, you could set yourself further back. So those Facebook groups, be careful. There's some ones that are okay, and there is some good information in there, but how do you know that it's applicable to you? So I wouldn't do that. I would just like if I broke my Mac computer, I wouldn't just take it to a general store. I would take it to an Apple store to get fixed. So if I ever if I hurt my eye, I would go see an eye specialist. I wouldn't go see an ear specialist. So find someone that specializes in what you've got, and you'll get better so much faster. Yeah, making SIBO protocol their whole life. So I did that too. I did all the things. So it's what I am a huge advocate for is be aware of what you're doing and do it, but then also forget about it as much as possible. Because those of us that have had digestive issues or still have, we often become hyper aware of our symptoms, and then that can just make it spiral. So as much as possible, go out and live your life and still get that connection with people as well. There's lots of things that you can do that don't involve food. You can go to a yoga class, you could have a book club, you could go temp bowling. It doesn't have to be to do with food. So I highly, highly, highly recommend not consuming. How is it 3 minutes to go yet? Sorry, guys. Again, if you need to leave in 3 minutes time, the recording will be sent over after. All right. Thinking they will be healed as soon as SIBO is gone. So it's not just about the SIBO. So you need to make sure that your whole digestive system is working and the rest of your body is in balance as well. SIBO is just one part of it. I don't know if you've heard my analogy before on the mosquitoes and the stagnant water. I think it's really similar to SIBO. So mosquitoes, you will find hanging around stagnant water, but they didn't make the water stagnant. They just came after the effect. So the SIBO bacteria in your small intestine, they didn't cause the SIBO. They've just come after the fact and grown from there. So yes, you can blast away the mosquitoes with your antimicrobials, antibiotics, or the elemental. But if you don't get the river flowing again, if you don't get that water flowing through again, the water will stay stagnant and then fresh mosquitoes will just come. So if you just target your SIBO and don't make sure your motility is working well, don't make sure you've got enough stomach acid, don't make sure that the contractions are happening properly, don't make sure you looked after your stress, don't make sure you have all these other things, the SIBO will just keep coming back. So this is a really, really important point to remember. You need to resolve all the parts that are no longer working to get there. A lot of people make it a very big thing to get to the root cause or find out what caused your SIBO. Yes, that's awesome, but it's not always possible. Again, I'm a great example. So I have got no idea when I first got SIBO. It could be from when I was 12 years old, or when I first started having issues. Because I know when I was in college, I tried to go vegetarian. This was 2008, so 12 years ago. It was a disaster. I was so bloated. My skin was awful. I got such bad acne all over my face. My brain fog, I was puffy all the time. I put on like 10 kilos or 25 pounds. So I probably had SIBO back then, but didn't know. So I can't tell you my exact cause of my SIBO, but I can tell you that I've resolved all the parts and fixed all the parts of my digestive system so that I no longer have SIBO and no longer have symptoms. So I didn't need to know my exact cause, but I did know that I needed to repair pretty much my whole gut, which I've done. That's good. It's nice to know. So Autumn's just asking, I love your name, by the way. Do you recommend antivinculin and anti-CD/TB testing if I think the root cause is food poisoning? It's nice to know, again. So if you've got the antivinculin, which can come from when we've had food poisoning, it's not going to really change too much of the protocol, except that you would need to know that you're probably going to be more sensitive to contracting food poisoning. But that would be the case for pretty much anyone with digestive issues. So my gut is healed now, but it's probably like, people talk about having a rock hard stomach and like a cast iron stomach. I probably won't have that. And also I'm more of a sensitive person as well. And I'm okay with that. I love it. Like people kind of roll their eyes at being an empath sometimes, but it helps me relate to people. I really enjoy being able to relate to people. So I wouldn't, it doesn't always serve me in the best way because my digestive system was more sensitive than others, but I enjoy being a sensitive person. It's nice. I don't want to be a robot. So if you've had food poisoning and you do have the antivinculin antibodies, you might be more sensitive to food poisoning in the future. But if you've had digestive issues, I would be taking more precautions when, say, traveling to Bali or traveling to India. I would recommend, actually, even if you didn't have digestive issues, I'd recommend strengthening up your digestive system before going. Maybe taking some Saccharomyces boulardii, having some things on hand for if you feel so you start to get it, so you can be prepared. Girl Scouts, be prepared. All right. So this one has kind of been coming up as I go through, just to summarize what I do. So yes, I treat the SIBO, but that's just like the tip of the iceberg. So when I'm working with someone, I'm looking at their whole body and I'm seeing the big picture. So I zoom out and then I use the biphasic diet often as a starting point, but I help the person expand back out from there as quickly as possible. And then my preferred way is the herbal antimicrobials, because antibiotics aren't really addressing the issue. And then the elemental, it is effective in SIBO, but again, it's not really helping the other parts of the digestive system. So as soon as I'm getting started, I first prep the person. So if you launch straight into the antimicrobials without making sure that your body can handle it, that's when people kind of have the die-off and the detox symptoms. That's not ideally that shouldn't happen. So if the body can process out the garbage that we are kind of creating, you shouldn't really get too much symptoms. You might be a little bit more tired. You might maybe day 1 or 2 have a slight headache, but these people that just feel awful and think that they're getting better almost the more awful they feel, that shouldn't be happening. That's your body saying, hey, there is just way too much toxicity. I can't handle it. So I prepare the person in terms of making sure that the liver's working well, making sure elimination is working well, removing any big food intolerances if I see them, to get the body a little bit stronger before going into the antimicrobials. And then alongside antimicrobials, I'm also working on the microbiome. I'm also looking at motility. I'm addressing the stress response. I'm calming down the nervous system, whatever the person needs. That's different for different people. And my approach, I feel like my approach is quite different. I feel like I'm quite different to a lot of naturopaths. I enjoy what I do. For one, I actually like people, so that's quite a big important part. I am very grateful that the clients that I tend to attract and end up working with are similar to me. Like your vibe attracts your tribe. And so even though my clients have been sick for 1 year, 2 years, 16 years, 33 years, you guys tend to all be very positive. So there's been lots of jokes in here. There's smiling, there's positivity. It's amazing. Like SIBO is horrible, but you still show up and you're still positive, and that is so lovely. I also recognize the need for support. So all my programs, we catch up each week. So a lot can change in a week. So a lot can change for the better in a week, and a lot can change for the worse in a week. So I like to see my clients every week to make sure we're on the right track. Because if you start going down the wrong road, I want to get you back so that you can get better quicker. I am so big in educating. So if I can show you how to care for your body, and if I can teach you how not to need me, then I've done my job well. I find that makes me quite sad. I'm in quite a few naturopath groups as well. And I find like there's these questions like, they want to know which fish oils I recommend, but I paid for that education, so I shouldn't tell them. I was like, but didn't we become naturopaths to help people get better? So I am not stingy on my education. The more that I can teach you, the better. Oh, Brianna, can I share that? It's really nice. You send it privately. I can't wait to start your SIBO Freedom course because your approach is so amazing. I can't wait to 2 weeks to go. And yeah, I talk about SIBO, but it's never just about the SIBO. I'm getting the whole body back into balance. The whole person, the whole picture. And it was not just your body, it's also your lifestyle. So we're looking at all different things from there. And then, oh, you're welcome, Nicole. And then, because I've been through it as well, I know where the pitfalls are, and I know kind of what to watch out for. And there's so much emotional stuff going on as well. And I've done so much work on myself that I love to share that too. So mindset stuff, what's happening with the rest of your life? What's happening with your, like, are you satisfied in your career? What's going on with your relationships? Like, that's not my specialty, but I do bring it in because it's a big part of healing. So thanks, Lisa. And I'm totally open to working with other practitioners as well. I feel like that's a really beautiful thing. So if you are working with someone but want a little bit more, I am happy you can talk to the practitioner that you're working with. I love the shared approach. I don't know if you've heard of the term like a dream team. So you don't just need one person to fix all the parts of you. You can have multiple. So it's totally fine. And as you know, so I work on rebuilding from day one, and it depends on, someone, was that Lisa, who asked about the LIBO versus the SIBO? So with LIBO, large intestinal bacterial overgrowth, it can also be known as dysbiosis, which means that things are out of balance. So if you've got LIBO, then rather than trying to kill the stuff that's not meant to be there, you put the focus on rebuilding the stuff that is meant to be there. So say you tried to plant a rose and it just dies straight away. Probably wasn't the rose's fault, probably something wrong with the soil. So if you fix the soil, then put the rose back in, then it could flourish. So with LIBO, you want to be working on rebuilding your good guys, and then you crowd out the bad. But you can also do that with SIBO, but through food. So you can't have prebiotics and probiotics at the beginning with SIBO because you can just feed the SIBO. But if you get LIBO, you can. So with SIBO, with rebuilding from day one, what I'm talking about is through the food. So getting that diversity back through the food. And for some people, there are some pre and probiotics you can have. It just depends on the kind of SIBO that you have. But yeah, getting from that place of not being able to eat anything to eating all the different things. So good. Oops. Slow and steady gets there faster. So if you try and go from where you are now to where I am in years, then you probably wouldn't feel very good. So I slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady. Wasn't sure how that would work in the beginning this week. Ah, cool. Yeah, I don't. I've had that quite a few times. I have a chat with the other practitioner if they're open to it, so we can just share what's going on and see from there. Oh yeah, I've said this quite a few times. So it's never just the SIBO. There's almost always something else going on, and you need to resolve the other things that are going on to stop the SIBO coming back. Because otherwise you'll probably just end up relapsing and losing your life. Yeah, so I teach you how not to need me. Good. Okay. And one of the things I love about the groups is you get to go through the process with people that can understand what you're going through, that people can relate to what you're going through. Because your partner or your mum or your dad or your best friend can have the best intentions of wanting to be there for you, but unless someone's been through it, it's really hard for them to relate. So don't be mad with your husband if he just doesn't get it, that you just can't have a sip of milk, or you just can't have a spoonful of that curry made with garlic and onion, because it will really hurt. Yeah, so it's a beautiful process, and people tend to often even stay friends after, and the group is so supportive. I love it. So support and accountability is massive. This is the first time in a group. It was interesting to hear everyone's members' experiences. Yeah, it's super cool. We're going to say something else on that. Oh, did you know? I think studies show that if you do something in a group setting, your chances of success increase to up to 70%. How cool is that? And keeps you motivated, keeps you inspired. There's inspiration versus motivation. Motivation, you do need some to get started, but then when you constantly re-inspire yourself, it's almost like a pull versus a push. So it's enjoyable. It's nice. You share recipes and all the things. They just didn't get it, but I understand that because yeah, for sure. Why does conventional medicine not recognize SIBO? My GP, oh, what? My GP claim was made up. When I come across someone like that might be challenging something of mine, I'm open to other ideas, like for sure. So if someone is coming from that place, I tend to ask them why. Like, why do you think it's made up? What do you think it could be instead? And find out what their beliefs are. And it helps them to open their minds, because rather than just saying, no, it's made up. It's not made up. There's testing. It's a thing. And then I'm pretty sure you know how awful you feel after eating certain foods. Isn't made up. There is hope. That's so cool. Okay, so I always say, like, there's not always, but there's an investment into looking after your health. It's either time or it's money. So on my Instagram page, I'm very forthcoming with all the information. So if you invest the time, you could probably figure it all by yourself. But if you invest the money, and then you can save yourself so much time. So there's the time versus money investment. But then yeah, that's good, Brianna. What does it cost not to invest? So time. So you can always earn more money. You can't earn more time. And it's so nice to be guided. So thinking about that one. Energy. I was so low in energy. I couldn't even teach my yoga class. I have so many clients say they don't have the energy to play with their kids, missing out on their kids' childhood, don't have the energy to socialize. So social life goes down the drain. Money. So how many of you have got the cupboard full of supplements that you aren't using? How many of you have stopped and started other protocols that haven't been helping? So thinking about that one. Freedom. I had, I'll send the recording out after. Sorry, I did go a bit over. Sorry about that. I had this amazing freedom lifestyle, but I wasn't enjoying it because I felt like I was a prisoner in my own body. So I lost a lot of my freedom. I could technically travel, but I couldn't because I also would just get so sick. So all that freedom I felt was taken away from me when I had my digestive issues and SIBO. Connection. So I isolated myself so much. I lived alone, which I enjoy, but at that time I was getting no other interaction because I was just isolating myself away. I was declining social invitations. I didn't want to go to weddings. I didn't want to go to restaurants. I didn't want to go to dinner parties. So I lost out on a lot of connection. Social life massively suffered. I feel like one of the biggest things that I want for my life is to be a mum. I'm not a mum yet, but and I'm open to having kids by myself, but I would love to have the family unit. So I didn't date for many, many, many years. And also I lost my period for 2 years when I was in the middle of my SIBO. So it was really scary, especially because I wanted to be a mum so bad. So that suffered. Enjoyment of food. I used to love food. And then I hated food. I was so mad at food. I was so angry at food. And now I get the enjoyment back from eating out with my friends and being able to choose things off the menu. It's really nice. Feeling good in my body. I feel like me and my body, I was going to say friends, but I just feel like we're one. We're one again. Whereas when I was like really sick, I felt like I didn't know how to care for this body and I didn't feel like it was mine. And even just looking myself in the eyes in the mirror, I would never do that. I just couldn't even bring myself to look myself in the eyes. And same with other people. I would avoid making eye contact. It's a really funny thing to observe. And so now my body is like flexible. I used to be so stiff all the time. My skin's all nice and soft. It feels really good. And I don't want to be anybody else but me. It's so nice. It's so peaceful. It's taking me a while, but I love it. Energy to live your life and pursue your goals. A lot of people kind of lose out on careers, lose out on dating, lose out on family time because just don't have the energy and massive anxiety as well. Anxiety is hugely connected to our digestive issues. Did you know if you've got, you're welcome, lovely. If you've got dysbiosis in your large intestine, so too much of the bad bacteria, their shell is made from things called lipopolysaccharides, or LPS. These LPS is like super inflammatory. So if they get dumped into your digestive system, they cause a lot of inflammation in your digestive system. If you've got leaky gut, chances are if you've got any digestive issues, you've got leaky gut as well. If that gets into the bloodstream, that can get into the brain and cause inflamed brain, which gives these feelings of anxiety and or depression. Oh, battery. And then if you've got, this is actually how they test the pharmaceutical antidepressants. They inject the poor little mice with lipopolysaccharides, give them the pharmaceutical antidepressant, and see if it's effective. Poor little mice. So much mental and emotional stuff comes from our digestive system. So you don't necessarily, a lot of people don't need to be on antidepressants anymore when they heal up their digestive system. I'm glad too, Kimberly. Okay, intimacy. I did not want to be intimate. I did not have relations for many years because I was too embarrassed about my bloated belly. I was too embarrassed if he stayed over. What if I did a really stinky fart or farts during the night? So I didn't have that intimacy for a long time. That's like the romantic intimacy, but also the intimacy with friends. Like I was so embarrassed and ashamed to be myself that I couldn't really bond with other people because I hated myself so much. Career, a lot of people, I've had multiple people tell me that they've given up on their careers because they need to know where the bathroom is all the time, or they couldn't be a nurse anymore because they need to have access to bathrooms. It's a big one, or just don't have the energy or the brain power to continue with their career goals. Life. So yeah, life. There's a wonderful way that someone once kind of reframed, if you think about the pleasure and the pain. So people make changes from a place of desperation or inspiration. I hope to come from a place of inspiration for you guys to make changes of what's possible. Like it's possible. It's like it's totally possible. I've done it. And then if you are struggling to get started, if you're struggling with your motivation, you can think about the pleasure versus the pain thing. So what is it going to cost you or what's going to happen if nothing changes? What's your life going to look like in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years if you don't get on top of your SIBO? It's still going to have low energy, not playing with the kids, missing out on life. But what could happen if you do fix them? Like chasing your career goals, having the wonderful relationship, going out to eat in restaurants, being free to travel, having lots of energy. That's pretty cool. Okay. Oh, thanks, Lisa. I share my story so much because it's relatable. I'm not the only one going through it. You guys aren't the only ones going through it. It's so nice to know that you're not broken and your body's just a little unwell and it can get better. So SIBO Freedom. I'm doing my next SIBO Freedom in 2 weeks' time, and this is currently the only way to work directly with me. I'm not doing private consultations anymore. And I'm maybe thinking one for February, but I might just do it once a year as well, so I'm not sure. So SIBO Freedom is my 3-month group coaching program, and I've been going through like how I work, and I think it's also important to get on with the practitioner that you choose to work with as well. So hopefully from today and from my Instagram, you'll have a sense of who I am, why I do what I do, what I do. So in SIBO Freedom, it is 3 months or 12 weeks, and we catch up each week. We have one scheduled session each week where I go through the topics that you need to know about and what you want to know about, and that's a live session. All are recorded as well and put in the Facebook group. And then we also have a loosely scheduled. So the live sessions will be my Monday mornings, your mostly in the States, Sunday evenings, and then sometime on a Wednesday evening or my Thursday morning within a 3, I'll tell you like a couple of days before what time it'll be. I do a live Q&A as well. So I'm answering all your questions because I think it's so important to understand. And then I've also got Sam answering technical questions every day, Monday to Friday as well. Is SIBO Freedom still for me if my new breath test results are negative after antibiotics? If you've still got symptoms, then yes. So remember how I said like probably about half have SIBO, half have LIBO, because it's not just about the SIBO. You need to get out everything that's not meant to be there and put in everything that is meant to be there. So we go through, like the method that you go through is similar. So I don't know if you've heard of weed, seed, feed. So weeding out what's not meant to be there, if it's candida, if it's fungus, if it's SIBO, if it's LIBO stuff. Seed, so putting in the stuff that is meant to be there, and then feeding it, so nourishing it so it works really well. So for everyone, everybody who works on microbiome, it is that important. It is that important. Most people are working on nervous system and adrenal stuff too. If someone needs help with hormones, that gets done there. So I show you, so you all have your individual treatment plans and I show you how to do them. And I'm personally overlooking your treatment plans. I'm personally overlooking your SIBO test results so that you know that you're doing the right thing for your body. So the specifics of the herbs that you might take. So if someone's got hydrogen SIBO and methane SIBO, they might need to take berberine and Alimax. Or if someone's just got the hydrogen, they'll just take the berberine. If someone doesn't have either, but does have candida, then we might need some neem. So in that way, the specifics are different, but you'll be doing them for like the same amount of time or similar amount of time. So we go through clearing out what's not meant to be there, rebuilding the whole digestive system and go through all the different parts. It's so cool. All right, Christmas morning. See, I get clients that are so excited. It is amazing. I love it. I love it. Okay. Start September 13th, my September 14th. Oh, I just went all through there. Picture that. Oops, and this is a big, big, big thing. So I can't stress this enough that if you start working on expanding the diet back out as soon as possible, but slowly and steadily, like that one GP with the teaspoon of mashed vegetables, that seems ridiculously slow, but you'll get there faster if you take it in a methodical, slow approach. Super important. How does the overlooking tailored part work? Do you privately message email clients to go through testing? So it's all in the group, and I love that because you might be surprised of how much someone else has a similar thing to you. So I love sharing it in the group. But then the overlooking tailored part, so when you sign up to be a client with me, you will go through my very extensive intake form and also submit any test results that you have. And so then I'll be overlooking all of that. And then as I get to know you, same as with a private client, like it takes me time to get to know your body. So straight up, I can have a really good sense of what's going on. And then how you progress and how you respond or not tells me even more about your body. So there can be two people starting at the same point, but how they respond to a food or a supplement, when you can tweak it, this person might need a higher dose, this might need a lower dose, and you'll know once you start treating. So I'm constantly adjusting and giving you advice and going through the group from there. So I keep the group small enough that I can have brain space for everyone. But I'm teaching you as well, like really how to do plans, how to know what you need so that you know how to care for your body. I noticed some people were coming to me, maybe they'd done like another protocol And they might have worked with a naturopath for 6 months, but once they finished working with them, they didn't necessarily know what to do next or how to continue working on themselves. That's why I'm so big in teaching. So I don't do it for you in the terms that I don't take your power away. I'm teaching you how to do it and making sure that you're doing it right. Does that make sense? Super cool. Oopsie, I can't read that. Going to get to a place where you can doesn't mean you should eat all the foods again. So I in the area. Oopsie. So me now, like I can eat everything. It doesn't mean that I do. I think pizza is probably one of the most relatable things. So I probably have pizza once a month because it's enjoyable, it's tasty, but if I were to have it every day, it's still not a health food. So I enjoy having lots of energy. I enjoy having the oomph to go surfing. I enjoy waking up at 5 a.m. Whereas if I eat too much bread or if I eat junk food, then I'm going to be tired. So junk food is always going to be junk food. So just because you can eat it doesn't mean that you should. That's what I mean by that. And yeah, so feeling confident that you know how to care for your body. And this is going to set you up for life. For the information that you learn here. And you can share it with your loved ones as well. It's awesome. Okay, here's the code. So just for you guys, 10% off, which is just under $200. Megan, says you're grateful. Oh, let's ask questions, get to know you. Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. You're welcome. Bye, lovelies. That's a little bonus code if you want to join SIBO Freedom. It's super cool. I love it. Okay. There's a little bit over time. Are there any more I haven't got that anyone would like to ask? I don't see the Q&A bit. Okay. Did I get everyone's questions? One new message. Can SIBO be related to adrenal fatigue? I think have postural hypertension and have most symptoms of adrenal fatigue as well, but they overlap with SIBO symptoms too. Also had no period for the first 5 months of my SIBO. It's all connected. It's so connected. So for those of you that don't know postural hypertension, so say if you stand up really quick and you get dizzy, or if you get out of bed really quick and you get dizzy, coming out of a forward fold in yoga and you get really dizzy, that's not meant to happen. So some people say, oh, it's always happened, but it's like, doesn't mean that it's always been good. So with the adrenal glands, so they're these tiny almond-shaped organs that sit on top of our kidneys. They help us with physical, mental, and emotional energy stuff. I didn't know that was a thing. It is a thing. It's your body telling you that something's not right. So the adrenal glands, like their primary stress hormones that they pump out are adrenaline and cortisol. So back to the survival instinct trumps everything. So if you come across someone with a gun, you need to decide very quickly if you're going to stay and fight or if you're going to run and fight. So either or, you're going to need all your resources to make the best decisions as quickly as possible and also the most strength. So everything, so say you were digesting a meal, that can wait. The energy and resources being used to digest that meal get diverted so that your muscles have more glucose to go, so that your brain's got more cortisol to make really good decisions. So another thing that they do is they constrict the blood vessels, so then things can get there faster. So if your adrenals are a bit tired, when you change your position quite quickly, the adrenaline and cortisol didn't constrict the blood vessels quick enough, so the blood pressure drops and before it stabilizes, so it will stabilize. So yeah, so that's my indicator. If I start to get dizzy when I stand up quickly, I know I need to cut back. Oh, it hasn't happened for a long time, actually. It's nice. This is another way of knowing that you healed, when you forget how sick you used to be. So I used to get dizzy all the time. I can't remember the last time I was dizzy. Good buddy. So, and then with the hormone stuff, So there's a thing called the HPA axis, which is your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal gland axis. It goes down from there. There's also the HPG axis, which is your hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis. And then that controls a lot of our reproductive hormones. Then there's this thing called the pregnenolone steal, not progesterone, pregnenolone. So pregnenolone is a base steroid hormone that can go on to make other hormones. So that pregnenolone can be converted into testosterone, into progesterone, into estrogen. But it can also be used to make cortisol. So again, survival instinct trumps everything. So if you have run out of things to make cortisol from, the body can steal it from the pregnenolone. It's called the pregnenolone steal. So then your reproductive hormones suffer. So remember how I said the parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest? It's also called your breed and feed. So anything that's not vital for survival right now will suffer when you are in the system for too long. Does that make sense also? Autumn. Ooh. I want to wait to get my new brush results back before signing up. Will be about a week. Is there a way I can still use the code? I was just going to do it for 72 hours. Maybe. If we are planning wanting to join, maybe. Let me think about that. So it was going to be 72 hours. If we are planning wanting to join SIBO Freedom, but we have a very old test result, do you recommend we get tested before it starts? It depends what you've done since then. But most of the time I'll say yes. So there's still lots of time. And also there's still time if someone joins and they haven't done it, there's still time for that, because I allow for that, for things to be organized. And then the first 2 weeks, we aren't doing any antimicrobials anyway, because we are preparing the body. So to get your SIBO test done, you usually get the results within a week after they receive your sample. So there's plenty of time. You've got about a month from now to get the results for me to do what I want you to do. So if it's over 6 months, then I would recommend. And then if you've done any sort of treatment between now and the last time you did a test, because remember, you can still have symptoms without it. But remember, SIBO Freedom, it's SIBO Freedom as well. I've thought about changing the name, but it just sounds so good. So you don't have to have SIBO to join SIBO Freedom, because we're working on all the things anyway. Because remembering that the method that you're all going to go through is the same. It takes the same amount of time. You need a minimum of 3 months to turn your digestive system around. Anything less, there's just not enough time. You need to do a certain amount of time of antimicrobials and the microbiome work and adrenal stuff, and the minimum is 3 months. And even when we finish, I give you instructions of what to do going forward, because you won't be, I don't feel like there's usually more work to do on adrenals or hormones or something, and that's not, hormones, for example, takes a minimum of 3 months to turn around. So if you've got other stuff going on, you'll probably need to be working on your health a bit longer, and I tell you what to do going forward as well. How do we navigate holiday meals? Oh, sorry, you asked me that question. It depends where you're at. So where there's a will, there's a way. There is. So there's times where you just kind of need to stand up for yourself. I get with families, it's tricky because they don't get it, and families are often the hardest to navigate, but you can totally make it work. So when I did like specific things with food, I teach this as well, like how to do recipes or how to meal prep, how to make it work with life. Because imagine all our meals were just cooked and delivered to us. That would be awesome, but that's not real life. So instead of having mashed potatoes, you could have cauliflower mash. If you just rolled your eyes, don't knock it till you try it. It is delicious. Instead of having this, you could make your own stuffing. You could, say if someone, when I was still going through it, if someone asked me out to lunch or dinner, I would get in there first and suggest a restaurant. And I would know like the menus that I could find something to eat. They didn't know any better. They didn't feel awkward. I didn't feel awkward. It was fine. And so with like a family gathering, I would take my own food and say, oh, let me bring something. coming from a place of, like, they don't need to know, like, depends on your relationship with wherever you're going. If you want to tell them, you can, but you don't have to. So what you eat is your business. And that if you feel like you want to be included, and I always wanted to be included, you can make adjustments. There's so many different ways to prepare meals that can make them friendly for this. There's never going to be the perfect time to do any sort of protocol like this. It's 3 months. Like, when does life stop for 3 months? There's always going to be something. There's always going to be a wedding. There's always going to be Thanksgiving. There's going to be Christmas. There's going to be Easter. There's going to be Valentine's Day. There's going to be an anniversary. There's going to be a birthday. So finding a way to make it work with your life. And then these are habits that you can take away after as well. Because if you just do something like very strict for 3 months, you're not really learning how to live life. So if you can find ways to make little adjustments now, these habits will help you through life. I'm not saying you need to be restricted for a long time, and I don't want anyone to be restricted for a long time. Because if you've been on the low FODMAP diet for longer than 3 months, your microbiome is suffering. That's why I just found out another friend went on the keto diet. I was like, no, your microbiome. Because the keto, just on the keto diet not only starves your good bacteria, it also feeds your bad bacteria. So like the fat and I know there's someone, I know you're watching, one of my guys in my tribe is on the carnivore diet, and I would love for you to come back to the vegetables because it just feeds inflammation and it's not very good. Does that make sense, Brett? So I talk about ways to navigate it, how to make it work, but there will need to be some adjustments. So it's just how it is. Okay. Yep, I hear you. And yeah, and blame me as well. I absolutely don't mind. I find that people are more, they listen to you more if you say, my naturopath has me doing this specific protocol, whereas I can't eat that. They tend to get the eye rolls. Also on that, you can eat anything you want. It's just what you're choosing to eat. There's a lot of mindset stuff in this. So if you think about, if you look at like, oh, I can't eat bread, that feels very sad. That feels very contracted. If you're saying like, I'm choosing not to eat bread, I'm choosing to eat this instead, it's very uplifting. It's like, yeah, go me. So you can choose, you can eat anything. But right now, if you eat all these foods, they're probably going to hurt. So instead, you're choosing other things right now. All right. Let's see if I've got any other questions. Question, can SIBO be related? Oh, autumn, good, thank you. Starting meeting with 42. Do not have SIBO anymore, but still having bloat and pain in stomach. Don't know how to get rid of it. Also, can SIBO cause anemia? Ferritin is very low. Yes, it can. Also parasites, because parasites love blood. So like bleeding. So parasites can cause bleeding, which can cause anemia, like in your digestive system. Also, iron and B12 is some of the SIBO bacteria's favorite food. So you could be supplementing with iron and B12, but you could be feeding the bacteria. So you need to fix the reason why the iron is low or the B12 is low, and then that will naturally come back into balance. Ferritin, I often find, is also very low with thyroid stuff. Thyroid stuff is very much connected with our metabolism, so it'll affect our digestion. Having bloat and pain in the stomach, so there's probably inflammation. So if it depends on the timing of the bloat as well. So if the bloat is after 3 hours, then I'm thinking about the large intestine. But often if there's been inflammation, so say on the outside, that's that red sore stage. Say you hurt the inside of your cheek, you can just put your food onto the other side of your mouth. But when it gets into your digestive system, it's got to pass through. So say I scratch my hand. If I just leave it alone, it'll heal because the body does that. But if I just pick it a little bit, 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 it'll never heal. So if there's a sore or irritation or inflammation on the inside and you don't take steps to heal it, so like with glutamine or gut healing nutrients, and it just stays inflamed, it's going to constantly get triggered and it's never going to heal. and that inflammation can cause bloat as well. Bum, bum, bum. If after retesting there's not enough improvement, should you switch protocols like go to pharmaceuticals, or can you just repeat same herbal antimicrobial or switch to another supplement? It depends on the person. So most of the time it might just need another round. So not everybody gets the SIBO in one round, but I do find when you do it properly, when you do, say like SIBO Freedom, where you're working on all the other parts, you probably won't feel as bad as you did the first time. And so often in the beginning, you do need to be quite specific with food, but if you have successfully brought food back in, you don't need to take it out again. So your motility should be working better by then. Your inflammation should be down by then. Your stomach acid should be better by then. So if you do need to do another round, it's never usually as intense as the first time. So you might just need to do another bacteria. So there's still it depends on the different. So still remembering that there's specific antimicrobials for the specific types of SIBO. So you can't just use the Alimax for the hydrogen. It's not going to work. So don't want to change that. Are you able, yeah, that's the one. Good question, Jen. Can SIBO be caused by a C-section or abdominal surgery? If so, is the treatment the same, or are we doomed? You're not doomed. No one is doomed. So this could be one of the underlying causes. So there's a thing called adhesions. And remember that picture from the beginning, how your intestines are all going different ways? It needs to go around a lot of corners, and the adhesions can look a bit like spiders' webs. And say, another little analogy for you, say your shower drain, the water, if it's working clear, the water will just flow through, no problem. If your hair is clogging up the drain, then the water can still flow through, but slower. So then if you've got adhesions, it's going to slow down the way things are moving through your intestines, which becomes a big festy mess and a lovely breeding ground for SIBO. So you still need to get rid of the SIBO, but then you'll also need to look into adhesion therapy. So there's different things that can break down. It's also like scar tissue. So scar tissue can form adhesions, and fibrin is called. So if it's mild, then something like the enzyme serrapeptidase can be enough to get it out. Sometimes if it's extensive scarring, you might need to go see a adhesion specialist and get that done. I think one company in the US is called Clear Passage. They specialize in adhesion therapy. Autumn, I know you're mostly plant-based. In the program, you give guidance on how to incorporate anafoods into a diet as well, like bone broth. Yes, I've been on quite a journey with the plant-based vegan thing. Where I sit now is that I am predominantly plant-based. I'm probably like 95% plant-based, because I found that I was getting obsessed when I went with vegan. Then I found that I was obsessing about food, checking every single ingredient again. And with my history, I don't want to be in that place. And then it comes down to choosing versus have to as well. Like I felt like I was wearing the label of vegan and it wasn't really serving me very well. So on that, I don't want to tell anybody what they should do. Like you should be vegan, you should be plant-based, you should be this. I do make recommendations, like say I've got clearly an opinion on the keto diet, just because I know about the science of what's happening to your microbiome. So it's not coming from a place of judgment, it's coming from a place of that's just going to happen. Like if you don't have any plant foods, if you're just eating animal foods, you're not going to get any fiber and your bacteria are going to suffer. So I do have that approach, but I've got no judgment on what anyone is eating. I've been through a lifetime of judging myself on what I was eating, and I know how horrible that was. So I will encourage plant diversity for shizzle if you are animals or plant-based, because you could be vegan and you could be unhealthy vegan. You could be eating bread and peanut butter. So yeah, you're a vegan, but it's not going to be very healthy for your microbiome. So I will always encourage plant diversity, but there's totally space for animal products. Bone broth comes in later. If your gut, so bone broth is really helpful for healing leaky gut, but if your gut is too leaky, it can make you feel worse. So you actually should start with meat broth and then work on to bone broth. So yeah, 100%. And like ratios or which animal products are best to choose, how to get how to feel good, pretty much. Is my ultimate goal is for you guys to have peace, like peace in your food choices, peace from obsessing about food, peace from worrying about symptoms. That's my ultimate goal. Okay, the meals you share on Instagram look amazing. Totally, Courtney. Like I was so sick. I was so sick, and I would only eat chicken and eggs because nothing else would go down. And now I can. So it's totally possible. It's absolutely possible. Do you help in your SIBO Freedom course with the food issues? I now have oxalate issues, histamine intolerance. It's been so hard to find foods to eat. Yeah, I do. So I had histamine intolerance as well. If I ate anything with high histamine, I would get headaches, I would get anxiety, I would get a pounding heart rate, I would get rashes. It was intense. So histamine and oxalate issues, I tend to find when you resolve the inflammation in the gut and when you remodulate your immune system, because these things are happening from your immune system's gone a bit wonky. So it can no longer do things effectively. It gets confused about what's meant to be attacking, what's not. And 70% of our immune system is in our gut lining. So if you can decrease the inflammation, heal the gut lining, rebalance the immune system so it's not so reactive, then you can heal that as well. Telling you I've been through all of them. Could you have histamine intolerance after SIBO from your liver need to be detoxed? Is that more to do with leaky gut? I feel like it's more to do with leaky gut. If something isn't on the biphasic diet list but is green on the FODMAPs, can we have it then? Depends on the person. So this is what I mean by the tailored dietary approach. I might use the biphasic as a starting point, but if something's not on there, but you know that you can tolerate it, like for sure, and it's not junk food, then I bring it back in. So if you know that you can have chickpeas, let's bring them in because they're amazing for your microbiome. Depends on the person. Stress. Oh, love. Sorry to hear about your parents. How are they doing? What you mentioned earlier about people not eating enough is something I'm struggling with as I have a very small appetite. Ideally, I eat 4 to 5 small meals, but I am concerned this doesn't leave enough time to do my image. I would be, so if you're eating, so ideally we want 4 hours between our meals to give that migrating motor complex a chance to sweep through. I've done quite a few posts on this on Instagram, so if you want to kind of delve more into the migrating motor complex. So I would, depends on what you're eating in those meals, but there's certain, so the appetite is the thing. So it could be coming from that place, like stimulating your appetite. So having some ginger, having some gentian, having like bitter things, they will stimulate your appetite. It could be that you're low in zinc. So low in zinc tends to lead to loss of appetite. So I'll be looking into reasons. So that's probably where I would start. Is like, why do you have a small appetite? And then work from there. I'm scared to start my SIBO journey because I have a high amount of stress in my life at the moment. SIBO healing journey. Is it ever going to be a good time, Kim? Is it ever going to be a good time? And then also, we're never really going to be able to completely eliminate stress. And I never ask my clients, like, how stressed are you? Because I don't think anyone likes to say, like, oh, I'm really stressed. I always ask, and what's more important is how you respond to stress. How is your body responding to stress? How are you responding to stress? Because you can have almost zero stress, but you could still be stressed out. On the flip side, you could have heaps of stress in your life, but be calm. So the outside stuff is none of your business. How you respond to it is your business. Just like that saying, how someone treats us as their karma, how we respond to it is ours. We have the choice of how we respond to external things. So I work on stress stuff with almost every single client. Like almost every single client that I work with needs some adrenal support, needs some nervous system support. So that's a big part of what I do. Big part. Because if we can't manage stress, and I bet this isn't the only time in your life that you're going to be in a stressful situation. So what happens the next time that you get stressed is your digestive system is just going to come back. So we need to figure out and support you so that you can respond to stress better. Just quietly. I've just been diagnosed with PCOS and hydrogen dominant SIBO. Have you worked with other women with PCOS? Does fixing the SIBO also help stabilize PCOS? It all comes together. So if you'll notice, a lot of the herbs that we use for PCOS are actually adrenal herbs. So back to that HPA, HPG axis, you have to calm down the HPA axis, and then the HPG comes back into balance. And PCOS is often very inflammatory as well. Acne, so I had really bad acne. So when it's like you have all these other symptoms going on, when you get to the base cause of it, you don't need to individually target these symptoms because they will naturally come back into balance by itself. Hair loss, brittle nails. So these things aren't vital to survival. So they will suffer while the body is trying to overcome a greater threat. So I see a lot of people with hair loss. I see a lot of people with hormonal issues. Like, you know, that I lost my period for 2 months. I had really bad acne. I didn't personally have PCOS, but my hormones were so out of whack. And so yes, I do work with that. So SIBO is kind of like the base thing that connects you all. And then if you have other things going on, I show you how to work with them as well. Oh, I get the stomach flu every other year, sometimes multiple times a season, and I get it bad. So say someone got a cold every month, you would know that they need to support their immune system. If you're getting a stomach flu every year, then we know that we need to support your digestive system. Do you have a list of all the other tests we can do, i.e. mold, food poisoning, etc. in one place? I'm confused. I don't, but that's an Instagram post if I ever saw one. All other tests. Nice one, Kim. I healed my leaky gut and Pseudomonas infection before going in and treating the SIBO. Like she said, prepping the microbiome first. Cool. Do you still have SIBO? Is C. diff considered LIBO? Not really. So LIBO, aka dysbiosis, is like things are out of balance. So C. difficile is one reason that things can go out of balance, but it's not. LIBO is more kind of referring to the thing as a whole. So there's probably more things. So there's probably an undergrowth of the good, overgrowth of the bad. C. diff would be one of the very bad. That's crap. This is the first time in a group. It was interesting to hear everyone's numbers. Yeah, cool. You were told it was all in your head. Lots of people were told it's all in your head. So dismissal and disrespectful. That's so crap. Lovely messages. Can SIBO, yes, got that one. Didn't know that was a thing. Do you ever work with women who have just gone through menopause? I got SIBO just as I wrapped up my last period. Oh no. That's a bummer. Yes, I will say it's not my specialty. So I am SIBO queen. I'm SIBO ninja, digestion specialist. I know a lot about hormones and a lot about thyroid and a lot about other things. So I can help you with both, but SIBO is my number one. I want to wait to, oh yeah, the one. When does hair loss stop, and is it more the SIBO or from previous stress? Same with rosacea. It could be both. It doesn't have to just be one or the other. So if you start shedding hair, unfortunately, it usually happens for 3 months. So the body will kind of just start shedding, and sometimes it doesn't stop shedding for 3 months, which can be very scary because you can start correcting, but it takes a while for the body to come back into balance. So just like a good example, say with people going through chemo. So the body is literally getting poisoned with chemo. So it is like a fight for survival. And so this tends to be one of the reasons why people going through chemo often lose their hair, because hair I love my hair, but it's not vital for my survival. So things that aren't vital for survival suffer. The top causes of hair loss, I wrote a post on this one actually, stress, low iron, and thyroid issues. And so stress because your body's in your fight or flight, so you're not absorbing all your nutrients. So you've got to calm that down. And then just not having the nutrients to grow the hair. Rosacea is very much connected to SIBO and inflammation as well. So healing up the inflammation and the rosacea can heal too. Can it be too early to take L-glutamine? Yes, it can. So you got to start super small with glutamine, similar in the concept with bone broth. So glutamine can help to heal leaky gut, but if your gut is too leaky, then it's not so great. What that means is, so if you're not ready for glutamine, you'll probably get headaches, might get tired eyes, you could get itchy skin, you could get pounding heart. So if you are sensitive to, say, MSG, monosodium glutamate, you could be sensitive to glutamine because glutamine can bind to sodium in the body and form a natural form of MSG. So I always start my clients very small and then we call it try it. So build up from there. And I always say, like, if you get to a point and you start getting headaches, stop for a couple of days, go back to the beginning, start again. If it happens again, then it's probably not for you right now. So then there's other ways to heal the gut. It doesn't have to be glutamine. That's just a good one. Do you see a correlation between people with MTHFR issues and gut issues since detoxing is a problem? Also, question number 2, do you find healing the gut helps with gastroparesis, or do you need to address the gastroparesis first in order to heal the gut? Again, it doesn't need to be one after the other. You can do, I recommend doing both at the same time. It's kind of like the chicken and egg. Does it really matter? You need to fix both. MTHFR, yes, so that is common too. Methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. Did anyone know what that stood for? Do you want me to say it again? It's pretty cool, huh? Methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. So methylation is a similar concept to detoxing, but it's not the same thing. So yes, I wouldn't say that it's one of the biggest causes of SIBO. Like it can play a part, but ideally we want everything back into balance. So if anything's out of balance, it can cause the digestive system to be out of balance. Yeah, just remembering, like, if you've got 2 things or more, you don't need to treat the mold first, then the SIBO. You can do both at the same time. So I'm always working on stimulating digestion, stimulating your correct gastric emptying. That's a really, really big part. And that can be through supplements, it can also be through the habits. So on how you're eating from there. What was the biggest thing that helped you with SIBO if you could choose? Slow and steady coming back out with my food. That's when I noticed the biggest difference. I was staying sick when I stayed restricted. So getting that diversity back slowly and steadily, like literally a teaspoon at a time. I can eat all the things. Just like if someone doesn't drink any alcohol and you give them a glass of wine, they're probably going to get drunk. The body hasn't needed to release enzymes to break down alcohol for a very long time. So it's like kind of caught off guard. So if you were to try and eat how I eat now, and you haven't been doing that for a long time, your body's not going to have the factory workers to break it down. So there's so many different kinds of bacteria that break down different kinds of fibers. So therefore, like the more different kind of fibers that you eat, the more different kinds of bacteria you're going to have, the more different kinds of foods you can break down. It's all connected. So sleepy, need to sign off. I did go a bit over. Oh my goodness, it's been like 2 hours. Thanks for those of you that are still here. You're amazing. Cool, got that. I need to jump off. Cool. What herb do you like best for motility? I'm on asparagus because I hated being on erythromycin. So asparagus is great. So as a prokinetic, and I love asparagus because it's also very bitter. It's also very bitter. So you've got all your taste receptors on your tongue, which stimulate digestion. So it will stimulate your liver and your gallbladder because it's bitter. It'll help tell your stomach that there's some hydrochloric acid to break down food. You're going to need some more digestive enzymes. So I love asparagus. 5-HTP is also very good. So 5-HTP is the 5-hydroxytryptophan, which is the precursor. So it comes before serotonin. So if you were to eat tryptophan, so say in bananas or turkey, then it can go one of 5 ways. And one of those 5 ways it can go is serotonin. Whereas if you take 5-HTP, it's already started down this road, so it can only become serotonin. And then isn't this wonderful? So up to, studies say between 70 to 95% of our body's serotonin is produced in the large intestine by our bacteria. So when you work on diversifying your microbiome, you're going to increase your production of serotonin, which is a natural prokinetic. This is why when you balance everything out, you don't need supplements. So if you have enough good bacteria, you don't need a prokinetic because it starts to do it by itself. If you think about a desert and the Amazon rainforest, if you try and plant a plant in the desert, it's going to be very fickle. Too much heat, it dies. Too much rain, it dies. Too much wind, it dies. Take that same plant and put it in the Amazon rainforest because it's so rich and fertile and diverse. There's no gardener going in and looking after the Amazon rainforest. It's like just pumping, it's thriving when it's not set on fire. So when you make your microbiome rich and diverse and healthy, you don't need to keep going in there and sorting things out because it just knows how to take care of itself. Amazing. Just to confirm, you did recommend finding a specialist to work with in addition to the SIBO Freedom session. No, so I'm the specialist. I'm the SIBO specialist. That's what I was talking about. So I specialize in SIBO. I specialize in digestive health. So I know it inside out. I am a nerd about it. I can lose hours researching scientific papers. This is why I know it's my jam. So I was talking about someone else who already has a functional MD. I was saying that I'm happy to work with another practitioner if you already have one. So say the practitioner that you have is helping you with your endometriosis but doesn't know too much about SIBO, I'm happy to work with that practitioner as well. So totally fine. So SIBO Freedom goes through everything, specializing in digestive health and more. I'm just sort of saying that I know about endometriosis and I know how to help it a lot, but if we don't get the results on, say, the endometriosis that we want, then I would refer to a specialist. So as a naturopath, it's like a GP of natural medicine. So I know lots about everything, but I know a lot about the digestive system and SIBO. That's what I meant. Does that make sense? Whew, got through all the questions. Oh, yeah. Who's still here? How do I get everyone back? All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? You rock, Anne. Unmute everyone. Unmute. Whew. It was a lot of talking. Does anyone have any final questions? So I think you can definitely tell. Rather passionate about my work. I do love it and I love to share it as well. So, cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have wonderful sleeps if you're about to go to bed, and beautiful days if you're about to. I haven't found an NP in the area that knows anything about SIBO intolerance. I work all online, so everything is online, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Absolutely anybody can join. Most of my clients are in the States, but I've had people in Israel and Argentina, like all everywhere. I was wondering about MMC. Can you have drinks between meals? For example, anything with calories will stop the migrating motor complex. I did another video on this on my Instagram as well, where it was just solely on the migrating motor complex. But anything, you're welcome, Lisa. Anything with calories will stop the migrating motor complex. It just depends how long it stops it for. So when we eat a meal, it'll stop for 3 hours. And we want that to happen because you want your food to stay there so that the stomach acid can get in and then pass through the small intestine. The enzymes can get in there, the contractions can break it down, you can extract the nutrients from them. So we do want it to stop. But then they'll start kicking in again. And then it'll come through every 90 minutes or an hour and a half. So it pushes your food through, but it also pushes through the bacteria. So if you aren't giving your migrating motor complex a chance to work, the bacteria just fester and multiply and multiply and multiply. So we need this migrating motor complex to come through. This is why the meal spacing is so important. So if you have a normal meal, it'll stop for about 3 hours. If you were to have a almond milk latte, it might stop for 20 minutes. So anything with calories will stop it. Whew. Okie dokie. I think that's all for today. You are amazing. Oh, did you? Woo! I don't know your first name. What's your first name? M. Crawford. Who's M. Crawford? Yay! That's exciting. I can't wait. I love it. It's always a very special experience. Yeah, I adore it. I get very close with my clients, and it's a wonderful experience to share. So super cool. Megan, welcome, Megan. Megan or Megan? Megan, Megan. I get Kirsten or Kirsten. I don't really mind. If I get Kristen, I'm like, oi, Kirsten. Okay, well, I'll see you soon, Megan. Megan. Cool, Megan. I will see you in there, and lots of love. Any other questions, you are welcome to DM me on Instagram, or you can message Sam at admin@kirstenswales.com. Cool. All right. Again, thanks everyone for being here. You are amazing. Lots of love. If I can do it, you can do it too. And it doesn't have to suck. Promise. All right. In Bali, we say sampai jumpa, which means see you again. Sampai jumpa lagi. I'm going to log off. Bye, guys.